the industry, like as a whole in oil and gas, is kind of, you have to know somebody to get in, right? The only reason I got into the rigs is because my friend's friend came to Calgary when I was living here, and he was, introduced me to the rigs, got me an interview, and I got working, right? So, and it's very intimidating, right? A lot of the members that we've trained, some have never left their community. So, there's a lot of like skills that we develop during the time of our training, is like how to talk to the employer, how to ask for days off. There's just a lot of life skills building. I mean, one of the other things that we try to really touch on is eating, right? Like how to pack a lunch, like, on the rig side, you could have a 6-hour day, you could have a 14-hour day, right? So it's very important to be prepared for those long days and appreciate the short days.
Yeah. Hey everybody, it's Abe Brown here. Welcome back to the Flourish podcast, and I'm really delighted to have a friend and a business guy, an entrepreneur here with us in our podcast studio today named Jon Velasco. Welcome, Jon.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Really good.
Good. You're looking good.
Thanks.
You look like you got your pump on here today. We were just joking about hitting the gym, and he hit the gym today. Yeah. So I think it's probably not his first time. It's
always humbling to go back after a couple months.
Isn't that the truth, right? But, Jon is really grateful that you're here today. I thought it would be great to let you guys get to know Jon. Jon actually, I think, has a really interesting story, and the work that he and his business partner are doing is really close to my heart, and it's really making a difference. And so, Jon, before we get into all that, though, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Well, I grew up in Mexico. Okay. I came to Canada when I was 10. My father somehow ended up in Canada, and we came to visit him when I was 9. And then my parents continued to talk through that next year, and then decided to move to Canada. And I went from a city of like 2 to 3 million people to a small rural community in Saskatchewan of like 500 people.
Nice.
And that includes all the dogs
and cats. And a lot colder.
Yeah. I was actually pretty blessed. It's like, and I was like, went from like going to a private school with having to wear a suit and all everything to school every day, and then going and working in a pig farm.
Okay.
A little bit of a culture shock.
I bet, eh?
But yeah.
Yeah. What was the what was the name of the community? Or are you...
Fillmore, Saskatchewan.
Okay, Fillmore, eh?
Yeah. It's about an hour and a half southeast of Regina.
Well, you get like real Canadian living in those rural towns, eh?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just like winters were really winter back then. I mean, the winters in Alberta are pretty mild once you get the Chinooks and stuff, but when winter settles into Saskatchewan, that's cold.
It doesn't go away for months, eh?
Yeah.
So you were in a private school in Mexico, or a school where you're wearing like fully suited up, and then you end up here and it's a little more laid back that way, right?
Yeah, it's pretty casual. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. And so how long did you stay in Saskatchewan?
Pretty much till I obviously graduated grade 12. Okay. We kind of, my dad opened up a couple of different businesses and kind of more restaurants, I guess, and it just kind of, he couldn't overcome some of his personal challenges. So we kind of left him when I was 14-ish. Okay. And we were pretty blessed. Like the lady that owned the farm that we grew up in kind of became, and is my grandma now.
Nice.
And she's like, she was talking to my mom over the last place we were staying at, and she was like, you pack your stuff. Like my dad had gone to the city to go get groceries for the week, and grandma's like, start packing, and grandma cleaned up the horse trailer, picked us up, and moved us back to Fillmore. And it's like, it was quite the journey, because my mom didn't speak English very well back then, and it was pretty. I was very blessed to have very strong women in my life to really hold me accountable.
Hey, thank God for strong women, right? Yeah, absolutely. And so, and then tell us about like your career and how things evolved for you.
Yeah, so after high school, I went to university. I went to DeVry. I went into electrical engineering technology degree, and just it was too heavy. Like, not that the school was heavy, but just life was heavy. Like, it was that school was a trimester school, and going from school to 7 to 1, working through to 11 just to make sure you have food and a place to stay. And after about a semester and a half of that, I was just like, hey, like this is maybe not the right road for me, and I started doing labor work. And a friend of mine's friend came to town, and he was spending money like it was going, like he was printing, and I was like, what do you do? And he's like, I work the rigs. I'm like, what are the rigs? And
so you were like me, you didn't know what the rigs were?
No. No. So yeah, we started working on rigs, and nice. I've been on the rigs, oil and gas sector since 1998.
Okay. So that's actually cool, 1998. And we know that there's a lot of changes, right, that have happened in the oil and gas and in energy industry. And so you've been in there since 1998. What are some of the types of jobs that you've been doing?
I mainly worked on the service rig sector. So like I worked my way from bottom up, and I was a rig manager. I was fortunate to be offered an opportunity to be a well site supervisor. Okay. So well site supervisors, they're the oil company representative on site. So we're in charge of organizing the work, make sure it gets done properly, make sure it's done safely, and obviously reporting and stuff to the guys in Calgary and stuff. So did that for about 11 years. And then a friend of mine and I decided to start a tool company, downhole tools. So that's kind of what we put in a well. And
nice.
Did that for, we kind of stumbled our way through it. I happened to have a good hitch of consulting and had some money put aside, built up some money. So we bought some tools, and I think it was like 3 weeks we got called. We were kind of in the process of stumbling to create a company, and this other company, like one of the largest independent owned companies for tools, called us and had a meeting with us and offered us up a job to open up a satellite of their business in Brooks. And
nice.
Did that for about a year, and then back into, I don't know, that's kind of when I had problems with my marriage, and kind of really focused a lot on myself and my faith and my kids and figuring out what life was going to be like. And it was just, because of my experience in the patch and then the community, the relationships that I built through those years, they really, I had a lot of guys that could lean on, say, hey, they know who I am. I mean, I work hard, I'm safe. I'm dependable, so getting work is not that hard for me. But it's I really focus a lot on my defining my faith and my establishing a relationship with my kids, because up to that point, I would looking back when I wouldn't qualify myself as a parent because I just worked, right? So I just worked and supplied and did stuff with the kids and stuff like that, but not really was there emotional support for the kids. So. It was, I would say this is my divorce was probably one of the worst things that happened to me. It was probably the best, because it really forced me to reflect on what I am and I have a great relationship with my kids today because of it. I don't know if that hadn't happened, if I would have the relationship I have with my kids today. So.
I think it's true in so many areas in life, right? That sometimes that adversity and the hardship and the difficulty of it can remind us of what's most important. Yeah, right on. So right now you have a company, and tell us about your company. Tell us the name. Tell us what you guys are up to.
So our company is Empowered Knowledge Working Academy. We actually came from the name backwards.
Okay.
My partner and I, Mike, were trying to figure out what we're gonna call ourselves, and I said, Mike, hey, I would love to have, because my partner's Indigenous, we're in an Indigenous space. I wanted to have an Indigenous name, but it's tough to use that language in the, in Calgary. And so we started with the acronym EKWA, which is EKWA, and in Cree. And Mike always gets this, but he always says this, so I don't remember it. But one of the dictionaries that translates that EKWA, the word means now is the time. So that was kind of like our now is the time for change. Now is the time to start something. And so that's kind of been our motto, I guess.
That's awesome. Yep. So Empowered Knowledge Working Academy. Okay, so what do you guys actually do? What do you do?
So we go to communities and we train them to work in oil and gas, specifically on the service rig sector. The reason why we focus on that is because both Mike and I come from the same background. We both started the rigs. Mike started the rigs in '96.
Okay.
So it's a very similar story. He worked the rigs for about 11 years. I worked the rigs for almost 11 years. He did consulting. I did consulting. So we kind of walked the same path in totally different places, because he's from Lloyd and I'm from Brooks.
Okay.
So it was very similar. Like I said, it's just a lot of you have to persevere a lot in the patch. It's quite the, it's not toxic, but it's really tough.
Right. It's difficult. Right?
Yeah, very difficult. Yeah.
And so when you say you work with communities, can you be more specific? Like, what are you guys actually doing there? Who are you working with?
Yeah, so we go into the communities and create a partnership with them.
Yeah.
And then we interview candidates from that community to take part of our training.
Yeah.
Our training is 25 days long or 5 weeks long.
Okay.
Roughly about 250 hours. We
Wow.
implement a lot of life skills, work readiness skills. We a motivational speaker is actually part of our team that comes in and starts the process. So our first day is like just orientation about what the process is going to be for the next 25 days. And we also do a drug test to make sure that there's no underlying issues that we aren't made aware of. So then after that, then Victor Lethbridge comes in, and he's been working with Indigenous communities for almost 30 years and has a master's in Indigenous relations or business, something. And so he comes in, and Mike likes to refer to it as he opens up their learning spirit.
Nice.
Because once they're done with Victor on the second day, they come to the rig and they're like ready, like it's like the first day at school in kindergarten.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I mean, I think for people who may be listening to this and you may not have a lot of familiarity when Jon's talking about communities, what he means is First Nations communities, right? And these communities, again, just in case you don't know, if you're listening, are often pretty remote. Almost all of them, not all, but almost all of them would be rural. And for young people or older people, there's not a lot of economic opportunity always on the reserve, right? It's actually quite limited. Now that's changing, but I think a big problem with a lot of these communities is just like employment. It's just finding a job where you can support your family and take care. Is that kind of an accurate description?
Yeah, for sure. And the industry, like as a whole in oil and gas, is kind of, you have to know somebody to get in, right? The only reason I got into the rigs is because my friend's friend came to Calgary when I was living here, and he was, introduced me to the rigs, got me an interview, and I got working, right? So it's very intimidating, right? A lot of the members that we've trained, some have never left their community.
Okay.
So there's a lot of skills that we develop during the time of our training, is like how to talk to the employer, how to ask for days off, there's just a lot of life skills building. I mean, one of the other things that we try to really touch on is eating, right? Like how to pack a lunch, on the rig side, you could have a 6-hour day, you could have a 14-hour day, right? So it's very important to be prepared for those long days and appreciate the short days.
Yeah. And yet, if you can make a career in it, you can make good money doing it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like the money is really definitely there, and it's obviously part of the reason why I stayed in it. What's a lot different now. Like when I started on the rigs, I started at $13.50 an hour, and back then it was like a lot of money. And there was 4 guys, and now there's 2 roughnecks. So when I first started, there was 1 roughneck. We're making $13.50, and now there's 2 roughnecks, and they make starting wages like $34 an hour.
Okay. Well, you could have called Jon. But I love this. I love the fact that you partnered with Mike, who is a Cree himself, and again, just to fill in case people are watching or listening to this, there's a real legacy in Canada with residential schools, and some of the difficult practices that went on in years past around colonization, and so when you're in these communities, because Jon knows, and many of you know that I've been also doing a lot of work in these communities, you're often dealing with the residue of trauma. Sometimes that shows up as substance abuse. Sometimes that shows up, like Jon is saying, like maybe they've just never had a job or been off the community. In these communities, death is a daily reality. So it's not just, let's give you the skills so that you're a roughneck or a rig worker, but you guys are actually having to get into the nitty gritty with people. Like what's some of the stuff that you would see as you're trying to get people going?
Yeah, so like we have a lot of really great stories, and I'll share a couple. Like on our first session, we had in the middle of our training, they got paid their LOA, so their living allowance,
right.
And Mike had 2 guys in his vehicle that he dropped off, and there was parties going on in both houses, and Mike's like, okay, well, we'll see what happens tomorrow. And next day, Mike goes up to pick up, Mike got a call around 10 o'clock at night from one of the guys that he dropped off. He's like, hey, Mike, I won't be where you dropped me off. I'm actually going to be at my dad's, and this is where it is. So he's like, okay, sounds good. So he goes and picks him up in the morning, and then he goes to the other house. There was a like roaring party going on when he dropped off one of the ladies.
Right.
And he's like, her vehicle was gone, and he's like, oh man, like what's gonna happen now? And all of a sudden the lady who drives up, he's like, I'll be right out, runs into her trailer and gets her lunch and comes out to work. And when she got into the vehicle with Mike, she was like, sorry Mike, I was running late. I was last night, I was like, all my friends were here and my sisters and all having a good time, and I was so tempted, and I didn't want to not be in training tomorrow. Yeah. So I packed the bag and went to town with my sister in Peace River, right?
That's cool, eh?
And when she shared that, then Mark opened up about what he experienced, and he same thing happened. Like he got home and there's a roaring party, and his sister's like trying to get him to party with them and stuff, and he's awesome. Like, I don't want to drink, and she's like, well, you either start drinking or I'm going to kick you out. So he packed up his stuff, and I moved to his dad's for the remaining of the training.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. And like, I don't think any of the folks who are like saying, hey, come and party, come and drink are necessarily bad people, but it's actually indicative to me. And I know there's even people watching here where you're trying to move forward in an area of your life, and the relationships that you had, aren't necessarily the relationships that you need to help you get to that next level, right? And I think that for a lot of us, we wrestle with this, right? It's like we've got our friends, we've got our friend circle, our family members, and they've been there for us, and maybe we've been there for them. But now when it's opportunity for a new stage, I have to sometimes be willing to separate myself a little bit, right? Yeah,
and that's definitely a very real challenge when we complete training and move on to the employment side. Right. Like it's like they're like, oh, you're going away and you're not going to be gone for 2 weeks. And from the whole beginning interview that we talk with the members is that, hey, like, you can't work from home, right? There's no
remote work,
no remote work here, right? And even if there's very little, even if there's some work in the community, you're talking about like maybe 2 to 3 weeks a year, right? Especially the ones that we've been working anyway, right? There's obviously other communities that have a lot more oil and gas activity, like in the northeastern BC and in Cold Lake and all that sort of stuff, but in the middle of near the Peace River, there just isn't that much work opportunity, so they don't get to come home. And it's like, and it has been a challenge, but like the one thing that we're committed to them and their communities is that we are going to walk with them until either they tell us to stop helping them, right, or until we get them to where they want to get to.
That's great. And so, this is great, Jon, and I'm really grateful for you sharing this. What drives this for you? Because, a guy like yourself, you could probably just go out there on the rigs and make good money and not really have to worry about all this other stuff, working with people, the difficulties of it, right? Yeah. So and I'm sure your partner too, you guys have been together now 10, 13 years, something like that. So
Mike and I?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Mike. How long I just know Mike in 2021.
Okay. Well, hey, even that is like, a good 3 years. And so it's like, well, what's kind of driving this for you guys?
Like from my side, it has to be like, it comes from God, because like for me, it's like I've always trusted God to give me work.
Okay.
I've never looked for work other than when I first made the leap to go to Brooks to go to work. And ever since then, it's just like whenever there's a season in my life where I'm not working, I just enjoy it because I know work's coming, right? And it's like I never not like if I have an opportunity where I know someone's looking for somebody and they're like, oh, you should call them, I always call, because I'm not lazy that way either. Like I want to work, right? But I'm also know that sometimes God puts me in a place of rest, and I've learned to enjoy those times of rest, because like it gets busy sometimes, really busy for me. So when the rest comes, I enjoy it.
Yeah. Take advantage while you can, right?
Yeah, and I've always been passionate to help, right? I mean, I was very fortunate that even in the busyness of my career in oil and gas, like I was always, by the time my kids got old enough to be part of sports, I was in the well site supervision position, so I was able to manage more of my time to be more hands-on to help with the coaching and the transportation of the kids and stuff. So
that's awesome.
I learned early on that I'm not a great coach with my kids, so I don't coach my kids. I'll coach everybody else's kids. Somebody else can handle my kids. But, that was one of the places where I really discovered joy, right? I mean, in oil and gas, I'm going to be perfectly honest, there's very little joy in it, right, other than obviously the
compensation.
Financial compensation is great, but there's not a lot of joy in the work. It's just you're doing work and you're working and that's it, right? But in my opportunity to coach kids, to see that kid that you've been coaching all year, like in the final game of the year, he scores his first goal and you're just like, and they're so excited, or the kid that makes the first basket or the first tackle or any of that stuff. It's just, that really kind of ignited a desire. And it's like, man, it'd be great to one day be able to do this for, and make money, because I don't think you make a lot of money coaching minor sports.
No, not yet. Not in Canada, anyways.
No. I was, like I said, it's just kind of that hunger's always been. I always want to be helpful, but again, I've never known how to do it, right? And again, just by being faithful and where God places me to work and just trust that I'm in the right place, it brought me to this place today.
Yeah, I know. I love that. And I think it's interesting to me because so many of the people that I work with, as a coach, they're always like, man, I need to start a brand new business, or I need to start a brand new career. Like I need to launch into something brand new. And I think part of what you're saying is, maybe the opportunity is there to use the skills that you have, but then add an element of service and add an element of supporting and empowering others, right?
Yeah.
In other words, all that job that you've been at, you can build on it, and who knows where that can take you. And so listen, how could somebody get a hold of you? And definitely, if you're a First Nation listening to this, or you're part of a team on a First Nation, you want to reach these guys because they can bring great training opportunities and employment to your community. But beyond that, maybe you just want to connect with Jon, just reach out. So how's that look?
Probably just be either text me or call me.
Okay.
Email, I guess.
Yeah.
We're kind of early on, and we're two rig hands trying to figure out how to run a business.
That's right. That's okay. I'm trying to figure out how to run a business. So what's your website?
EKWA.ca.
Okay, so EKWA.ca, and then if they went there, there's a contact us
there should
thing
be,
or something. And then
there should be, because I don't know.
Yeah, he doesn't know. All right. Well, hey, let's hope for the best.
We're working towards understanding. It's like, because again, like we get so like we're kind of we don't have those skill set, right? We just don't know that stuff, and we're slowly getting to a point where we're getting above the water a little bit and trying to be like, hey, what are we missing here? And
right on.
You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. But listen, guys and gals, go to EKWA.ca and check it out. And then there should be a contact portal there. But if there's not, reach me and I'll get you in touch with Jon, because we see each other pretty regularly. And I'm just really inspired because I think no matter what you're up to out there, and I love how you keep referencing your relationship with God, and I think what God will often say is use what's in your hand. You don't necessarily need some brand new thing, but use what's in your hand and maybe in a new way. And so who knows how your skills can be used going forward. Don't abandon the skills that you built, because they can come in valuable. And just like you're helping so many First Nations communities, maybe somebody's skills can be enhanced that way too. So any final thoughts?
Not really. It's just, no, like I said, I'm really looking forward to what's ahead for us, because it's like we're just we're getting a lot of traction in the space, and we want to make sure that we deliver. That I've always said this is like, we're not a training company,
right?
We want to empower people to get to where they want to get to, so they can lift other people up.
Love that.
We don't want, obviously the training is very important and we're very good at it.
Yeah.
But we don't want to make money training. No. That's not our goal. Like I've always said, like if you want to make money, we can just go be wellsite supervisors and make plenty of money doing it that way.
Good money. Yeah. Absolutely. But it's about getting people moving forward. So, hey, you did great here. Thanks, Jon. And thanks everybody for joining us for the Flourish podcast. Again, make sure you subscribe, give us a like, and maybe a share, and help us with those algorithms. And thank you so much. Definitely looking forward to see you in our next podcast episode. Thanks, everybody.